Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lucy Rowett and I'm standing in for Dr. Martha Tara Lee, who is away. So you're going to have the pleasure of my company for the next hour. I'm a clinical sexologist and sex coach, and I work with individuals, couples, men, women, and everyone in between, helping you to achieve sexual fulfillment and satisfaction. I'm going to be talking to you today about my own personal journey with sex and spirit in the hope that it will inspire you and encourage you if you've been on a similar journey to me, especially if you're coming from a background of shaming and religious conditioning, because I believe this is a common theme that exists all around the world. So before I start, I'll tell you a little bit about myself because you don't know me very well. I appeared on this show a few months ago with Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I was talking about predators in Tantra, and I was so thrilled that she invited me to join her again, except she's not here, it's just me. So hopefully you will enjoy what I have to talk about, and if you want to contact me, I'll be giving you my contact details at the end, where you can find me online on social media. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to connect with you, and if you want to work with me, I would love to work with you as well. So my name is Lucy. I'm a sex coach. I am, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm British. I live in the United Kingdom on the south coast of England. The nearest city to me is Brighton, which is known as the gay capital of the UK. And I'm also very close to a town called Eastbourne, which happens to be very conservative. So this is quite a new field for me in clinical sexology and sex coaching, and I can tell you more of that background in a bit. My journey from sex to spirit, which is what I was going to be talking about, is in some ways quite unusual and in some ways quite common for people in this field. So, as I said, I was raised in England. I am British. I was raised in a church-going, God-fearing household. And before I start, I want to be very clear that I am not wanting to shame any form of religion. I'm not wanting to shame Christianity, especially because even though I come from this and I've had to work with a lot of that sex negative conditioning, it's not a reflection of the religion on a whole. And there are many, many wonderful sex positive Christians doing some amazing work, and people who are religious and sex positive, and I want to acknowledge that. I more want to talk about how, unfortunately, within religion and religious upbringing, there is a lot of sex negativity and shaming to do with sexuality, which is something that I had to work with, and I know that many, many people are having to recover from. I also want to state that I was very lucky. I was not brought up in a cult. I happen to know people who were brought up in cults. And so for them, the shaming around sexuality and anything that wasn't allowed in the cult is a lot stronger. So if that is you, if you were brought up in a cult, we can still work together and know that even though I don't come from the same kind of shaming that you do, I can really empathize. So I was brought up in a Church of England household. My parents are very religious but very, very loving people. And I was very much brought up with the idea that you do not have sex before marriage. And virginity is something you save until marriage. And I very much embraced this as a teenager. And I'm sure that my friends over in the United States, you're probably resonating with this a lot. I'm aware in the States you have purity balls, you have promise rings, and we don't have it to that extent so much in the UK, but there is very much something that's taught within Christian households and Christian communities that sex is something you save until marriage, which, again, I don't say there's anything wrong with that, but this brought a lot of shame within me because I remember when I was a teenager, I embraced the Evangelical movement, which has some wonderful parts and some not so wonderful parts. One thing that brought up within me, again, was a lot of shaming around sexuality. I remember as a teenager, I had very strong sexual desire, and feeling so embarrassed and ashamed of something wrong and dirty with me. And I remember trying to stuff this down and repress it and thinking, oh my God, I'm crazy. I'm some sort of weird pervert. I can't control these fantasies. And I remember thinking there was something wrong with me for having sexual desire and wanting to experience sexuality. And I still remember that the sex education I received at high school was pretty non-existent, apart from one sex education lesson which was led by the school pastor, who pretty much told us that if you have, basically, to sum up in a nutshell, was telling us that sex was very dirty, and telling us that masturbation is addictive and very dirty. And I also remember as a teenager, and I think within Christianity, there's often this idea of how far can you go? So how far can you engage in sexual behavior before it becomes full-on sex and therefore bad? So I remember that I had a lot of this internal shaming going along, and all of my friends had this as well. I mean, to some degrees more than others. I think maybe I felt it more than my other peers did. But it's something I hope that as I'm speaking, other people can resonate with this. Believing that sex is dirty, believing that any form of sexual expression, unless it's within a married context, is wrong. And a very, very big focus on purity and morality. So, yeah, this was how far I came until I was a teenager, until I was about 14. And I was very determined I would stay a virgin, quote unquote, until marriage. I say virgin, quote unquote, because I believe that term doesn't really have any meaning anymore. If you quantify virgin as someone who hasn't had experienced intercourse, again, that's a very broad term, but this is something that I passionately believed in. And after the break, I'm going to talk a bit more about where I went from then and how I transitioned from a very good church-going girl and very evangelical to the sex coach that I am now, and the work that I do now in working with people, helping people heal from shame, helping people express and embrace the whole full range of sexual expression and sexual experiences so that you can feel happy and at peace with yourself. Yeah, I'm just taking the time. So I can say a little bit more before we go on to break. One thing that I think people might resonate with, certainly in a religious context, is there's a very big emphasis on being good and behaving and being moral, which again is something I've had to work on in terms of how do we quantify what is good or moral behavior, especially when this comes to your sexuality. Because again, how can we quantify whether a sexual behavior is moral or immoral, whether something is good or bad? And I hope that you listeners might be able to resonate with this, in that I now believe that any form of sexual behavior and expression, as long as it is safe, sane, consensual, and between adults, is okay and is good. I don't like putting this emphasis on what is moral and what is not. And so this is why I believe that sometimes religious conditioning can be very shaming towards sexuality. But I don't want to talk about this too much because I've come a long way since leaving this background, and I've journeyed a long way in my own experiences with sex and spirit, even though I feel there are many people who have experienced a lot more than I have and are a lot more qualified to speak than I am. But at the same time, I know that everyone's journey is valid. Yes, so this is my journey so far. I decided to leave the church when I was about 21. I'm now 28 years old. And it was from there that I decided to embark on my own journey of self-realization and sexual self-realization, which was, first of all, exploring everything that I was told was the devil, quote unquote. I say this within quote marks. And exploring for myself whether something really was evil or satanic or not, which is what prompted my journey into alternative spirituality, into Reiki. I embraced and I started reading about the Gnostic Gospels, about Mary Magdalene, and that was when I first dipped my toes into the world of Tantra, which is a whole juicy topic all by itself. And I don't want my listeners to think that I have a bad attitude towards Tantra. Even with my previous radio show, Tantra can be a beautiful practice and a beautiful vehicle of self-exploration. And I still have some very, very positive experiences with Tantra, even when I've met some not so savory characters within the tantric scene. And I believe on the whole it's a very powerful transformational tool. And I would say this is probably one of the biggest tools, apart from my sex coaching training, which helped me heal the rift between sex and spirit, believing that there was something, that there had to be a split between sex and spirit, and so you couldn't be sexual and spiritual or spiritual and sexual. And I believe this is something that's kind of collectively happening in the world right now, where more and more people are waking up. Thanks to many wonderful online personalities and training programs and books being made available, and realizing that, I don't have to sacrifice my sexuality and my lust and my desire in order to achieve enlightenment or to be a spiritual and good person. And this is something that I see as something juicy and positive and something I want to see more of. And maybe in my wildest dreams, maybe this could be something that facilitates more world peace, more happiness, more contentment, more realization in the world. This is something that I want to be working towards and helping people with, because I believe that when you are sexually satisfied and you've integrated your sexuality into yourself, that you are a more happy and more vibrant person. You feel like you're following your life purpose. You feel connected to yourself, and this is something that I would want to help you discover as well. So yes, this is Sex and Spirit, my own journey with it. And I will see you or hear you after the break, where I then give you the next stage of my journey and how we can work together in the future.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance. Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Hi, welcome back. This is Lucy Rowett standing in for Dr. Martha Tara Lee, who is away. So you have me for the rest of the hour. I'm a sex coach, and I work with couples, individuals, men, women, and everyone in between. And this is me talking about my own personal journey with sex and spirit and how this can resonate with you and how we could possibly work together in the future. And as I was saying before the break, that my story is, well, my journey has been quite unusual and at the same time quite common when we compare to other people who come into conscious sexuality, where I was summarizing briefly how I come from a background of religion and religious conditioning, and how I've distanced myself from this in order to heal my own relationship with my sexuality. As I said, I am now a sex coach. My training is in clinical sexology and coaching, and this has been a huge part in my own personal, professional, and sexual evolution, and accepting and embracing who I am so I can better work with clients, embrace and accept who they are, or who you are if you want to work with me. So if you're wanting to work with me, I'll be giving my details at the end of this broadcast, and I would love to hear from you. So I'm going to move forward a little bit from where I came from. So I distanced myself from my Christian upbringing when I was about 21, and I embraced everything to do with spirit that I was told was the devil. I say the devil in quote marks because I don't really believe in such things. And I embraced all forms of spirituality. I was reading a lot, and something that I haven't mentioned is that at this time I also had a physical and mental health breakdown as well. I was confined to a bed for about 4 years because my physical health broke down. Or you could say it was a breakthrough because this was a chance for me to go on my own personal healing journey. I'm not going to say that sexuality was the whole part of this healing journey, but it was one really essential component in coming back to wholeness. So because I was confined to the bed, I had all the time in the world to do lots of research and read all the books I could about spirituality, personal development, anything to get me better. And this was where, after kind of embracing alternative spirituality, getting into all the stuff from Hay House, Doreen Virtue, Louise L. Hay, and all the main authors within alternative spirituality, I came across the Gnostic Gospels, and this was a great, bridge for me between Christianity and alternative spirituality, and also an entryway into, so sex and spirit can be linked? That sex can be a part of spirit? Wow! Because I was taught for so long that sex was something quite dirty or not shameful, but something you had to keep hidden because it was very dangerous and powerful. And I was devouring all these new materials and opening my mind, and I felt really open. And it was at this point that I was starting to experiment with different sexual expression and sexual relations with different partners. When I say this sounds like I was doing all sorts. I wasn't doing that much. It was more me experimenting. I was in my early 20s by then, and I was still very inexperienced due to my health problems. And I remember as I started experimenting with different people, feeling an intense amount of shame that I was somehow dirty and wrong for it. And this has taken quite a few years to get rid of that internal shame. And this seems to be a very recurring theme within most people's sexual journeys, and what I see within my clients and my colleagues. And often the biggest barrier is overcoming your internalized shame, because even if you don't come from religious conditioning, the shaming is still so prevalent in all areas of society. And this was a big thing for me, healing my shame. I remember the first time that I engaged in intercourse with somebody, I remember looking at myself in the mirror thinking, am I somehow dirty now? Am I somehow different? Am I somehow damaged? This took a very long time to get over, especially when I had other sexual partners. And I don't know whether this was because I was very hypersensitive to this kind of thing, or whether it was my conditioning or my upbringing or both. But it did take a long time for me to make peace with the fact that I enjoyed sex, I enjoyed sexual behavior, and there was nothing wrong with this. Again, this is something very common I see with other people as well when you're overcoming shame. So I was trying various books and seeing a Reiki practitioner, and I decided, why not just jump into a full-on conscious sexuality retreat in Finland in the middle of winter. I don't tend to do things by halves, and this was my first ever, number 1, workshop, number 2, retreat, number 3, trip abroad in about 10 years, and it was to Finland in the middle of winter. So this retreat I actually wrote about on my blog when I first started blogging, and this was about 3-4 years ago. And while I wouldn't really want to repeat that retreat again, it was such a huge catalyst in blowing me open and helping me really heal my relationship with my sexuality and connecting what we call the pussy energy to the heart energy. I'm sorry for crude language there. And this was a very, very huge heart-opening, mind-opening, body-opening experience. It took about 6 weeks to properly land after I came back. And I've never really been the same again. It was such a huge catalyst in healing my lust, in embracing my desire, and embracing the inner, I want to say slut, and I want to say slut in the most positive and life-affirming way. It was healing my relationship with that part of myself. And I saw this with other people on this retreat as well. I wouldn't necessarily want to repeat that again, and I've experienced many other different trainings, workshops, retreats since then that have all informed my own professional and personal and sexual evolution. And I think these retreats and workshops are such powerful catalysts to really help open you up, because they really do open you up. I spoke about this a little on my last radio show, that again, these retreats are very powerful, but you do need to know your boundaries. And I think if I was to repeat another retreat like this, I would be a lot firmer in my boundaries. But it was a huge learning curve for me. And it was, I don't know how to describe it. It was an awakening. It was a beautiful, gorgeous, juicy awakening that was connecting me to my whole body and not just to my mind or my heart. It was a whole body experience. And it's a very different feeling to when I was just praying or when I was just trying to read the Bible or meditate. It was a full-bodied, orgasmic, explosive experience. And it's very difficult to describe to somebody who hasn't personally had this kind of experience, because it's something you have to live and feel rather than just verbally describe. And, you know, at the end of this, I can recommend some wonderful teachers in Europe and the US who I highly recommend in being able to hold the space and really facilitate deep transformation within people. Because I believe that conscious sexuality as a movement, even though it's an umbrella term, can be a huge, huge way for people to deeply, deeply heal and access a part of themselves that's long been suppressed. I feel that in my own journey, that in reclaiming my own sexuality, healing my relationship with my genitals, healing my relationship with my desire, with my fantasies, with my dark side, this has been a huge part of me becoming whole, a whole person, a whole woman, a whole adult. Whereas before I was still quite naive and quite insecure about many things. And now I fully embrace that my body, this is all part of who I am, and this is what I would want to give to you if you want to work with me, and that your sexuality is a beautiful, juicy, vibrant part of you, and it's just as much part of you as your heart, as your mind, as your intellect, as your hobbies, as your interests. Your sexuality is something that can be integrated into the whole part of you. And if we're not working with this, we're not working with the whole person, we're not healing the whole person. And this kind of brings me into why I began to do the training that I do and why I began to do the work that I do. Because it is something that I still feel very passionate about, and it's something that I see, and I know a lot of my sexologist colleagues see, as the missing key, the missing ingredient that people have, where they've done lots of personal transformational work, many spiritual workshops, many personal development workshops, but something is missing, and that usually tends to be working with their sexuality. And it's beautiful, and it's sad that many people in workshops don't address that, which is what I want to be offering with my clients and in workshops that I'll be offering in the future. So briefly, before we go on break, I started training. We're an organization called Sex Coach University. I started the training 2 years ago, and I did live training as well as correspondence training. And this was a wonderful balance to the spiritual aspects of sexuality that I was experiencing. It was bringing me more science-based research, more peer-reviewed research, and it helped ground a lot of what I've been learning as something that could be scientifically accurate. As I said, I've experienced and participated on many different retreats and workshops and trainings. And as part of my training, I had to attend a training called Sexual Attitude Reassessment and Restructuring, or STAR. And STAR is a mandatory training if you want to be certified by ASECT. So Dr. Martha Tara-Lee is an ASECT certified sexuality educator. If you want to, by the way, ASECT stands for American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors and Therapists. If you want to have any form of ASECT certification, you must have completed a STAR. STAR is an international standard of sensitivity training for sexuality professionals, and I've so far completed one STAR. I'm hoping to complete a few more. because it's a very big, even though it's no touch, no nudity, just mainly talk, you're still being exposed to a wide range of multimedia examples of sexual expression that help desensitize you and open your mind and widen your container so you can really embrace and accept the many ways of sexual expression, gender identity, sexual orientation. And this was another huge catalyst in me accepting that sexual expression is infinite. The leader was Dr. Patty Britton and Dr. Robert Dunlap. And they were, unfortunately, Dr. Robert Dunlap died a few months ago, which is very sad. But they were the big catalyst in saying that as long as when you embrace somebody's sexuality and embrace the full spectrum of it, that you're embracing the whole person. I remember at the end of this training, I was feeling incredibly at peace and incredibly, my heart felt incredibly open. And I said, I was joking that most people feel this way after a juice fast or a Vipassana retreat. I felt this way after 2 days of intensive sexology training in Poland, in Warsaw. So it was a very, very intense experience. I have now completed 2 different aspects trainings, also run by Sex Coach University, which is a lot more in-depth sexological training, which very much involves the body. These trainings have been a huge part of my own healing in embracing who I am, embracing the sexual aspect of myself, and really understanding that sex and spirit are so wonderfully linked together, and the more you can embrace them and work with them, the more vibrant and the more whole you are as a person. And I also really enjoy that in aspects with Dr. Patty Britton's work, they explore other ways of sex and spirit other than Tantra or other than traditional sacred sexuality practices. So we're going to go on to a break now, and then I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about my work.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
What's up? This is Brad and Mike from Lincoln Park for Life Beat, the music industry fights AIDS. Listen up, times are tough and you get a lot of things thrown your way. If you're being pressured to have sex and you're not ready, then say no. If you're having sex, be smart and use protection. Respect yourself and protect yourself.
For more information, call the National AIDS Hotline at 1-800-342-AIDS or log on to www.lifebeat.org.
Hi, welcome back. This is Lucy Rowett. I'm standing in for Dr. Martha Tara Lee on Eros Evolution. Dr. Martha is enjoying herself away on another retreat, so I'm covering the show for you. Hi everyone, I appeared on this show a few months ago talking about predators and Tantra, and today I'm talking to you about my own personal journey with sex and spirit in the hope that it will inspire you and encourage you wherever you are in your journey with sex and spirit. As I said at the beginning, I am a sex coach and I'm a clinical sexologist, so I work with human sexuality and human sexual behavior. Yes, sexology is a real field of study. It's not some made-up word. Sexologists do study and we do train, and it's something that I feel very passionate about and something that I hope I can share with you, especially as I personally have a spiritual practice. I am a very spiritual person, and I believe that sex and spirit are inextricably linked together, and you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. And this especially ties in with my training in sex coaching, where we embrace the whole person: mind, emotion, body image, energy, and spirit, which is something that sometimes is left out on other traditional psychology trainings, where we embrace the spirit and energy aspect of the person as well. Especially as my training is very holistic and client-centered, we work with the whole person. We want to see our clients as whole, complete people, not people who are broken or have a dysfunction or a pathology. And this has been a part of my own journey in embracing my own wholeness and embracing that I am a whole, complete, vibrant person, and that includes my sexuality as well. So, as I said, as part of my own journey with sex and spirit, I've experimented and tried many things, and at the same time, I haven't tried many things. I'm still young, so to speak. I'm 28 years old, and there's still many things I haven't experienced and would be open to experiencing. But I would say along this path, which took me from Evangelical Christianity to clinical sexology, I've met some amazing, very interesting people on the way that I wouldn't have met if I'd stayed within that bubble necessarily. I've met people who are out and proud sex workers. I've met people from the adult industry. I've met many different trans people, non-binary folk, people who don't identify with any gender, people who are very into the BDSM scene, people with very unusual and bizarre kinks and fetishes. And it's really helped me embrace and accept that not just human sexuality, but being human is something so gloriously wonderful and so colorful that we can't limit someone into one particular box. I've met so many amazing people, and I have met people who are still within a religious context, who are doing amazing work in bringing sexual health, sexual freedom, sexual rights, and sexual awareness within to religious organizations, which I think is so needed right now, especially as I want to acknowledge the work that is being done. I was at the World Association of Sexual Health Annual Congress this year in Prague, and I had the joy to meet a sexologist who is teaching about sexuality and Islam, which is something that isn't talked about so much, and she wanted to present a really positive spin on sexuality and Islam. And this is something that I would love to see more within the religious communities, of embracing full sexual behavior, because, as many tenets of many different religions say, do not judge. And that especially includes do not judge somebody based on their sexuality, their behavior, their preferences, their expressions, as long as it's consensual. I want to kind of stamp that in, but I believe any sexual expression is okay as long as it's safe, sane, and consensual, and adult as well. I don't want to go into anything that isn't within that framework. As my own personal experimentations, my own personal journey has led me to try different things I wouldn't necessarily want to try again, things that I would want to try again. As someone who is, I think I describe myself as particularly vanilla in my tastes, I've experimented with different kinds of kink, and I thought I would really not like it, and I discovered actually I do enjoy some forms of kink, and this is something that I didn't expect about myself. And especially as I worked with this amazing sex worker who has been on the show before, Shawnee Love, who teaches conscious kink, which is using kink as a tool for healing, for self-development, personal development, which isn't really something you'd associate kink with. And I feel very honored and blessed that I've met so many amazing people on my path that have doing this amazing work within sexuality, sexual rights, and personal development, as bridging this gap between sex and spirit, or sex and personal development, because they don't have to be separate. And I think it was Osho, and I don't want to quote him too much, but I think it was Osho, and I could be completely wrong, by the way, so please do not quote me on this. I believe it was Osho who said that sexuality is the final frontier of human spiritual development, and I really do agree with this, and that the more we can befriend and make friends with our desires, with our fantasies, with our erotic selves, the more whole we are and the more complete we can show up in the world and the more good we can do in the world, I think. I mean, doesn't that sound like a great idea to you? We can do more good in the world the more healed we are and the more whole we are. So maybe I've been talking about my own development in a not so much a linear fashion because I've been going off on lots of different tangents. I guess where I am right now with my sexuality, I feel very comfortable with it. I feel very comfortable with who I am as a woman. I feel very comfortable with what I like, what I don't like, what I can ask for and what I don't want. And as simple as it sounds, it took a lot of work to get to this place of embracing what I like and what I don't like, asking for what I want and what I don't want. And this can be such a huge path, especially for women, and I'm speaking as a heterosexual, cisgendered woman, that many women who are heterosexual and cisgendered, or even transgendered or non-binary, really struggle to ask for what they want and put a boundary down as to what they will and won't accept in the bedroom. And again, this can come back down to religious conditioning or general conditioning of women not being able to ask for what they want or to say no. And this ties into consent work. My friend and colleague Sarah Martin, who's also appeared on this show, has talked a lot about her work with consent and empowering people to embrace their yeses and nos. And I would say that within sexuality, when you can really embrace your yeses and your nos, this can filter out the rest of your life. When you can fully say yes or no to something within the bedroom or within sexuality, the more you can say yes or no to things in every aspect of your life, which is why often working and healing with your sexuality can have a ripple effect, a butterfly effect onto the rest of your life, which can be so healing and so powerful. And I've experienced this in my own journey and in the people I've trained with, the people I've been in workshops with, the people who, even like people I haven't trained with, just people who, friends of mine and acquaintances. And it's something that I want to see more of. I think of my relationship with my parents, how, I don't know whether any listeners would resonate with this, but many people who were raised were not given very good sex education. And while my parents were very loving and supportive and they were very permissive about sexuality, there's still a lot they didn't teach me that I had to learn for myself. And now that I have learned and become educated and been trained, we can have a lot more open and honest dialogues about sex and sexuality. And they've come to change their opinions a lot as well, which has been something really powerful for me to witness. And it's something that I am witnessing within the religious world and the Christian world, especially, that they are evolving, times are changing. There's more people who are coming out and saying, I can be sexual and be religious. I can be sexual and be a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew. And this is something that I am so happy to see, and something that, again, I believe is something that's happening on the unconscious collective or collective evolution, or is that a word at the moment? Something that's happening around the world where more people are waking up, more people are accepting themselves, more people are demanding that they can embrace pleasure with spirituality. Before we go on break, another part of my journey was working for a UK-based pleasure products company, which was another part of my development in selling sex toys to women, which is difficult to talk about over the dinner table with your family. But this was another part of me seeing that even women who are not actively spiritual are demanding to experience pleasure and to experience wholeness, which I think is really, really beautiful. And before we go on break, or just after we go on break, I'm going to talk a little bit about shame and internalized slut shaming. And this has been, I think, for me as a woman, and me seeing the world as a woman, another aspect of healing the rift between sex and spirit, which is shaming, and especially slut shaming. I think slut shaming is talked about in the media a lot at the moment, especially feminist media and general online media, in identifying what slut shaming is and trying to get rid of it. But which, for you who don't know, slut shaming is basically shaming a woman or a man for being sexually active and enjoying sex, or being perceived as sexually active, which is something that's so toxic and so damaging, basically shaming anybody for appearing sexual or enjoying their sexual energy, which, when you think about it, sounds really stupid and dumb, but it happens all the time, and it's been happening for many, many centuries. And even if you're not actively hearing it, it's still something that we internalize, something that I definitely internalized, and something I definitely actively work now to call out with other people, because just because I've healed my own relationship with my own sexual shame, I definitely don't want to be giving this to other people or letting other people experience this. And this is something that I work with in my own private practice. And if you want to work with me, at the end of this, I will give my contact details of how we can work together to help you get through your own sexual shame, bust your blocks, and get to a place of juicy fulfillment. And again, it can be a process. Breaking through your own sexual shame and internal shaming, it's not something that necessarily happens overnight. It's something that can take quite a while. It's like peeling back an onion, because when you feel that you've peeled back something or one layer, there's still more to come back to. And I don't know, maybe I believe that when one person starts to heal their own sexual shame or internal shaming, you're kind of doing this for the rest of the world and the universal collective consciousness, if that is a word. It's something that I believe that when you do it for yourself, you're doing it for the rest of the world as well. This is my little dream for the world, and that we'd all be free of sexual shame, free of inhibitions, juicily embracing and enjoying who we are and going after what we want and desire in a respectful and healthy manner. And wouldn't the world be such a much more happier, more vibrant place if we did this? And again, what I want to say is, even though I come from a background of a religious background, I don't want to, put down religion, because I still have many people and friends and colleagues who are within a religious context. And there's so many positive aspects of this as well. And we're going to go on a break now, and then I'll share how we can work together.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Susan Schuler.
And I'm Lori Walker.
And we are
the Psychic Angel Channelers
from Angel Talk Tuesday.
Tune in every week at 10 a.m. Eastern on OMTimesRadio.com.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Bathe in the beautiful vibrational frequency to help you heal, expand, and remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Hi everyone. Hi. I hope you can hear me. I hope we're not having any tech problems here. My name is Lucy Rowett. I am standing in for Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I am a sex coach. Dr. Martha is away on, I think, a juicy retreat in Bali, and I am standing in for her tonight. You may remember me. I was on Eros Evolution a few months ago talking about predators and Tantra. Now I'm back talking about my own personal journey with sex and spirit in the hope that it will inspire you and encourage you on your own journey, wherever you are right now, in healing your relationship with your sexuality and your spirituality, knowing that you do not have to sacrifice one for the other, that you can fully be a spiritual, religious, episode I've been talking about my own journey, coming from a religious background, talking about experimenting with different workshops and retreats, dipping my toes into conscious sexuality, into Tantra, into BDSM and kink, and I feel I haven't experienced as much as other guests will have definitely experienced, but at the same time, I know that I have a lot to share within my own journey. And I would also say that it doesn't matter if you haven't experienced or explored a lot. It doesn't mean that you can't be a whole person, and it doesn't mean your experiences aren't valid. And I would say that I wanted to share in the last segment of this show about internalized shaming, especially internalized slut shaming and internalized sexual shaming. Sexual shame is something I see amongst my clients and my colleagues, and it can show up in many different insidious ways, in feeling ashamed of your desires, feeling ashamed of your body, feeling ashamed of your genitals, feeling ashamed of your bodily fluids, being ashamed of the face you make when you orgasm, ashamed of your stretch marks, ashamed of what you want, ashamed of your really dark, taboo fantasies, just a general shame around sexuality and your sex drive. And I personally think that this shame is underneath a lot of so-called sexual dysfunctions and sexual problems, and also psychological problems. So it seems natural that a huge aspect of healing and wholeness is healing that shame. And this is something I can work very well with if you want to work with me. So I am a sex coach. I'm a clinical sexologist, which means it's not a made-up word. I do work with human sexuality, and if you want to work with me, I am offering one-to-one private coaching or couples coaching. You can contact me via my website, which is www.juiceandjasmine.com. A new page is coming up soon with sex coaching, and I would love to hear from you. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Juice and Jasmine. I'm on Instagram, Juice and Jasmine, and on Twitter, Juice and Jasmine. So I would really love to hear from you. I love all comments. Even if they're not so positive, I welcome all forms of criticism. Just please, nothing aggressive. I would love to connect with you, and I would love us to work together, especially if you feel that my story has resonated with you and you want to take your personal sexual journey one step further to get to a place of juicy satisfaction. Juicy is a word I use a lot because I think it's a wonderful word to describe an ecstatic way of being, feeling juicy, feeling vibrant, feeling alive. Because this is how I feel within my own sexuality now, and it's not a linear process. There are still times where I feel particularly shut down, or, everyone has bad days, myself included, but my own journey has brought me to this place of feeling whole within my sexuality and my sexual self, knowing that whoever I share it with, be it with my partner at the moment or with myself, that I'm coming up as a full, whole, wonderful person. And I think when it also comes to internalized shaming, I think this can be a huge aspect, especially if you're in if you have an alternative way of expressing your sexuality. So if you're particularly kinky, if you're polyamorous, if you are non-binary, if you're attracted to the same sex, or you're attracted to anybody, there can be a huge amount of shame there. I know this can be prevalent within the LGBTQIA+ community, where people feel, basically when people feel ashamed, when they feel their sexuality doesn't conform to a general standard norm of what society says is normal and what is not. And one takeaway I would give you now is that there is no such thing as normal sexual behavior. There's no such thing as normal sexual expression. There's something that is common, but normal doesn't exist. So wherever you are right now, whatever you like, however you feel about your sexuality, as long as it is safe, sane, and consensual and adult, it's okay, and it's all wonderful. This is something that I want to give to you if I'm working with you, if we're working one-to-one, which is this acceptance and this embracing of who you are and where you are right now. Especially as my own sex coaching training has led me to experience and understand the full range of sexual expressions and identities and behaviors out there, and really embrace that they can all be beautiful and have so much to give. And I think as we're kind of wrapping up this show, and thank you so much for listening to me. This is a new thing for me, doing this all by myself. I'm hoping to do more radio shows soon. I definitely believe that sex and spirit are something that are very, very united, and something you do not have to sacrifice one for the other. My own journey has brought me to a place of real contentment within sex and spirit. And I believe that when we connect our sex and our spirit, and when we are connected to both of them, we feel so much more alive, so much more connected to life, connected to other people, and connected to ourselves. So I feel this kind of wraps up my own journey with sexuality. I've been very clear that I don't want to disclose my own relationships or my own specific sexual experiences, because I feel that's not really appropriate and something that I don't want to share publicly. At the same time, I fully embrace and accept people who disclose something about themselves personally, but it's something that is my own personal boundary. I am very, very grateful to my training, to the people who have brought me to where I am right now, especially my training at Sex Coach University, with the Sex Positive Institute in Warsaw, Poland, where I have a lot of colleagues and friends. This has been a huge part of my training, with various Tantra teachers in the UK and abroad who have informed my own journey, to all the wonderful authors out there and authors of websites. I'm very, very grateful. There are so many people I can recommend for your own journey. So there's an amazing Tantra teacher, Shashi Saluna, Sonia Shrada Devi. I'm sorry, I'm not pronouncing these names very well. I highly recommend the work of Shawnee Love. I recommend a woman called Jenny Joy, who lives in London, who does amazing trainings. I recommend the training of John Hawkins. I recommend psychological bodywork training. These are all wonderful modalities that whatever you decide and whatever you feel resonates with you, I hope that you can find something that helps you on your own journey and your own development within healing your relationship with your sexuality and your spirituality. And I want you to know that wherever you are right now, if you're just starting to experience a sexual awakening, if you're just starting to dip your toes into it, or if you're a very seasoned sex explorer, so to speak, there's always more to learn, there's always more to experience, but where you are right now is okay as well. It's a beautiful journey that you can embark on. It's something that will change your life completely. You'll never be able to go back. And it's something that will make your life so much more richer and juicier. And it doesn't matter where you come from, especially if you come from a background of particular abuse or trauma. I really believe in the human capacity to heal and to overcome and to find bliss and ecstasy wherever you are and wherever you've come from. Healing is possible, bliss and ecstasy is possible, acceptance and joyful celebration is possible. Anything is possible as long as you're gentle with yourself, as long as you trust in the process, and as long as you stay connected to yourself. I hope that this radio show has been helpful to you. I hope that you've gotten something out of this. I would love to work with you if you want to work with me more. I work in Eastbourne and Brighton, which is on the south coast of the UK, but I also work internationally and further afield using Skype or Zoom. So please don't let distance be a factor as to whether we can work together. I really want you to help get you to a place of feeling whole, feeling juicy, feeling connected, and experiencing the ecstatic sex life that you deserve and you know you deserve. I want to say thank you to Dr. Martha Tara Lee for having me on this program, for having faith in me, taking this program all by myself. I was a little bit nervous. I want to thank OMTimes Radio and for everyone who supported me in giving this radio show. You can find me at juiceandjasmine.com. I am a writer and a blogger. I haven't published a lot recently, but I will be publishing more soon. I give away a free ebook on my website called Get Sexy, a Juicy Girl's Guide to Reclaiming Your Sensuality, which is a guide for women and all who identify as women to really get in touch with your sexual energy and embrace it again. I'm about to be publishing some more digital products, including Spoonie Sex, which is a book for people who have long-term health conditions and disabilities, or Spoonies, and how you can still enjoy a wonderful sex life either with yourself or partners. And I will also be releasing a book on female orgasm 101, how to experience female orgasm and the mysteries of it. So I really hope if you want to join my mailing list, you'll be the first to know when I release these new products. Find me on Facebook, find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram. I would love to connect with you. I love talking about everything to do with sex and spirit. You can also join my private Facebook group, which is Juice and Jasmine Tribe, where we talk about everything sex and spirit. And thank you so much for having me. It's been such a joy to be on this show, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And stay juicy. Thank you.